Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Bob, for having this here at the library here in Lindenhurst. As everybody here knows, there is no George Wallace. You're all an extension of George Wallace. I'm just a function of the community of poetry on Long Island. So it's just all one big party. So everybody that reads, even if you want to read and say it's me, that's fine with me. I got a couple of poems I want to read, just general sort of poems from different sources. And I've got 3 books that I'll read a couple poems from, including my most recent book that just came from Cleveland, Sleeping Beauty's Revenge. So I guess I'll go for about a half an hour if that's a good amount of time.
Good to go.
And then I'll be glad to hear from everyone else. And I know Bob said he's not going to read, but maybe we can encourage this guy to do something extemporaneously. This is an old poem that I wrote, but it's recently come back into my head as a useful poem to read about, because I've been to read, because I've been doing a lot of writing about regular working men and women. And this is a poem I read many years ago. One of the first poems I ever wrote, actually, when I came back to New York, about a contractor who lives in Levittown. It's called Take Mike. So, do you know this poem,
yes.
Vicki? Yeah. I don't read this too often, but it's fun to read, I think. Take Mike, I mean, he doesn't live in this town. He lives in Levittown, which is nowhere as far as anybody's concerned these days. He lives in a house built after the war, in a time when everybody got married and lived as happy as the next guy in the next pea pod, meaning they lived in a house like everybody else and didn't mind it. And they all watched the same show on the same channel, on the same model TV, and the test signal came on at the same time of night in every household in America. But take Mike, for goodness sakes. I mean, he makes a little money, and he does something with it. That was just a little monopoly house after all, but right away, he's pushing it out here, he's adding a little skylight there. Before you know it, he's got a kitchen nook where everyone else on the street has only got a wall. And he refuses to catch the 737 and be one of the guys on a train full of guys rumbling car by identical car to the city. He won't even take an office job. For Christ's sakes, no, he's got to be a roofer or something and buy a truck of his own and paint his own name on the side. And nobody is going to tell him what to do. All right, maybe sometimes it means he loses a contract in the middle of a job because he refuses to compromise with some lady in one or another of those overpriced houses on the North Shore. But I mean, take Mike. He's his own man with his own set of tools, his own set of manly possessions. Take Mike. He owns one of those dogs that sits in the passenger seat of his truck and hangs his head out the window. For Christ's sake, you can take that dog to the beach. It'll actually jump into the water. If you throw a stick, I don't care whether it's summer or the middle of January, by God, they actually go out and they go for it. I've seen the pictures. It's not that I'm jealous, I want to make that clear. I've lived long enough to realize that individualism is no longer an issue. I've outgrown that particular fantasy. I mean, it's impossible to be an individual in a nation of 300 million people are all being fed the same line of crap every day, every everlasting working day, every day about freedom and individuality. The same line of crap advertised absolutely everywhere, and everybody's offered the same line of products and services which they would have to buy to be individual or the wear to be individual. The same clever line of commentary which they would have to think to be individual, and where the only semblance of real individuality is to figure out how to keep up with the new fashion alternatives in individuality. Without going broke or losing focus on your work, is to figure out how to strap on the latest feed bag and remain content when you're not in your office or in a bed which no longer yields up its dreams. We're choosing from among the new lines of crap that come up with becomes the measure of a man, not real life choices, no. I accept that after all these years. But take Mike. I mean, he's a man with real leather tool belt and a big clanging box for his tools. When he comes home at night, he's spackled from ear to ear with tar and hard work, and he smiles and he takes to his easy chair, and everything about him tells me this is a man who actually comes home and finds real relief from a day's work, real rest not just another dark spot to park his butt while he waits to die. And there, I've said it. Not that I'm afraid of dying, but take Mike. Death wouldn't be so bad for a man like that. He's experienced life. Life has given him its rewards for living it. Take Mike. He hasn't cheated himself of living. Life hasn't meant missed opportunities for a man like Mike the way it has for me, because I don't know, but sometimes I feel as if I've cheated myself and I've missed my chances. I don't want to die until I've really lived, even if it's too late for me to do so. But not Mike. Why should he be afraid to die? Well, that's why I say, if death has to come and knock on someone's door, let it be Mike. Let Mike be the one lying on the living room floor clutching his chest with his wife ironing happily in the kitchen. Kids out God knows where pummeling baseballs and doing their hair. With the bills piling quietly higher, with the snow still falling on the perfectly plowed driveway. It is the strong ones that should die. The ones who've worked hard and slept well. The ones who have wrestled with life and won and lost, while the rest of us have just waited, hoping that somehow, someday, someone would hand us the magic key. Death, when you come, take Mike. The name hasn't been changed to protect the innocent. Speaking of snow, as it's getting to be snow season, here's a little snow. I guess snow is rare in Rome, Italy. Or at least, that's when I wrote this poem, I had that impression that snow is rare in Rome. So I wrote this poem while I was in Rome about visiting and meeting a woman who was a performance poet. Actually, she was the slam champion of Italy. And she wanted to take me to the gravesite of Gregory Corso, who's buried in the Cemetery E Cattolico, the non-Catholic cemetery in Rome. Even though he's, Gregory Corso is a good Catholic Italian kid from Greenwich Village, he wanted to be buried next to Shelley and Keats in this cemetery. So he managed to get himself buried in this non-Catholic cemetery in Rome. So she wanted to bring me to that, and this is the experience. We didn't actually get to go in because it was closed that particular day, but it inspired this poem because of what happened on the way. It's called Omaggio a Louis Armstrong, or Homage to Louis Armstrong. It's the second part of the 20th century. Snow's fallen on a man in Rome who's, playing on a trumpet. This song is composed. It's a good day, it's a very good day in the kingdom of jazz. A miracle has happened today. This man's been released from Joliet prison, and he's left Chicago. He's changed his name, he's left the country, and he's come to Rome, Italy. In prison, he prayed for this. It is a miracle to him as big as Roman snow. And now he is sitting in front of the Basilica Santa Maria Maggiore, and he's performing his song in the falling snow. And the song is the sound of his godfather in Sabine Parish, Louisiana, the morning they caught him hiding in the pines. And the song is 1 part desire and 2 parts the baying of Texas bloodhounds. And the song is 2 parts dying and 1 part Louisiana shrimp trawler. And the traffic and the pedestrians and the snow and the air and the jazz is the jazz is the jazz is the jazz. And a young woman on a bicycle who's just riding past, a woman wearing a black overcoat and black gloves and a tight-fitting red scarf, and beneath her coat there's a white blouse with pearl buttons, a woman who has studied philosophy at the university, and further, man, she knows a man who knew a man who one time met Gregorio Corso but didn't know it was him at the time, a woman who's just pedaling along happily and laughing at the snow, a woman who has heard this song over the sound of the traffic, a young woman who has stopped and gotten off her bicycle and has walked over to listen to the man with a trumpet standing in the snow in front of the Basilica Santa Maria Maggiore, and in the middle of the crowd over the rushing sound of traffic and people in the city and all that snow, she speaks out something out loud. Sachmo, she says. Omaggio a Sachmo. And she starts to dance. You know, I'm the writer-in-residence at the Walt Whitman birthplace this year and next year. So I have had a great opportunity to travel into this show for the Whitman House to places like the John Steinbeck Center in Salinas and Robert Burns House in Dumfries, Scotland, and all over the country and some places in Europe as well. It's been a real pleasure. So because of that, I like to read something by Walt Whitman, most of my reading. So this is one of the ones that I like to do. It's called, and it's an extraction, because if you actually read a poem by Walt Whitman, it would take up the whole half hour. So it's just like a piece of one of Walt Whitman's poems. It's called Miracles. Why, who makes much of a miracle? As for me, I know of nothing else but miracles. Whether I walk the streets of Manhattan, or dart my sight over the roofs of houses toward the sky, or wade with naked feet along the beach just in the edge of the water, or stand under trees in the woods, or talk by day with anyone I love, or sleep in the bed at night with anyone I love, or sit at a table at dinner with my mother, or look at strangers opposite me riding in a car, or watch honeybees busy around the hive of a summer forenoon, or animals feeding in the fields, or birds, or stars shining so quietly and bright, with the exquisite delicate thin curve of the new moon in spring. Or whether I go out among those I like the best and that like me the best, mechanics, boatmen, farmers, or among the savants, or to a soiree, or to the opera, or stand a long while looking at the movement of machinery, or behold children at their sports, or the admirable sight of a perfect old man with a perfect old woman, or the sick in hospitals, or the dead carried to burial, or my own eyes and figures in the glass. These, with the rest, one and all, are to me miracles. The whole referring at each distinct in its place. To me, every hour of the light and dark is a miracle. Every cubic inch of space, a miracle. Every square yard of the surface of the earth is spread with the same. Every foot of the interior swarms with the same. Every spear of grass, the frames, limbs, organs of men and women, all that concerns them, all these to me are unspeakably perfect miracles. To me, the sea is a continual miracle. The fishes that swim, the rocks, the motion of the waves, the ships with men in them, what stranger miracles are there? I was telling Bob earlier today that I'm a Yankees fan. Right, so I have gone to the new Yankee Stadium, and I thought it was going to be awful because, to go up on the top deck, first of all, they said it was going to be $3,500 for a seat, but it's only $3,500 a seat if you're right behind home plate. It's still $55 way up there in the nosebleed seats, and they're much better nosebleed seats than they used to be. It used to be that they were pitched like there was a long pitch to it, but now that it's closer to the field. So you can get up there like on the fourth deck, 418, 420, 422, like that, $55, and be right over the game. It's really excellent. So this was written right after the first time that I walked out, and saw the grass from the field when you walk out from that tunnel, and the feeling when you go to a baseball game and you go through all of the stuff, going through the corridors and up the ramps and maybe through on an elevator or something like that, and you walk through the tunnel and you emerge like you're being born into a baseball field. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful experience. This is called night baseball. Sitting in the nosebleed seats thinking about nothing in particular on any given night, a couple dozen nights a year. Me and 50,000 other guys, we love the same team. The same team. Same damn team. We loved them last year when they came in third. We're going to love them this year, win or lose. We'll groan when the other team scores. We'll go wild when our boys win. Go ahead and laugh. But the place flips out when we win it. I mean, it's summertime. It's hot in the city. Where else is there to go? The plumbers, the electricians, the short-order cooks, the pool room jokers. We are all here. Automotive part delivery men, junk bond salesmen, cops, crooks, gals who drive yellow cabs, you name it. Marginally employed men, women, and children of America. 50,000 of us strong, hopeful, resilient, every one of us pounding the same fist into the same leather imaginary bit, hoping for an easy pop-up, or a hot grounder, or a foul foul tip to come our way. Heads up, crack the bat, sharing this great American city, sharing the fine heartbeat of it all. The nosebleed seats. The nosebleed seats. Man, I mean, I would cut you off in a New York minute to get through traffic. I know you wouldn't blink twice if I was lying there on the hot, anonymous street, so, okay, we can agree on that. But we can put aside our differences for a couple of hours. Because we're not in the street. We're in the stadium. We are gathered here together to enjoy night baseball. We are comrades in arms, sitting high above the only game in town. We share it, we cheer it, we go crazy together. No threat of thunderstorm, no triple-digit heat, no muggings in the park, no pink slip can keep us away. We are in love with the emerald field, the rosin in the bag, the dark, clean, beautiful night, shimmering like fruit bats in the sky. A jet passes overhead, an orange moon rises like a pumpkin over left field. The whole world, a world away. We're in the one place we can agree to love. In the park, the world smells sweet as hot dogs. We're shoulder to shoulder, swinging for the stands, bleach it out, slogging our beer, cotton candy, the aroma of it, the taste of it, the ocean of it all, moving like a wave, the big cheer, sitting up in the third decker along the first base line, night after baseball night. And the game tastes like a good cigar smoked out in the open, angelic, mysterious, fine. We love this game. We love this game, and we love the same team, our boys in pinstripes. Rookie shortstops who field like Cinderella, old-timers can barely bend their knees, hard-nosed boys and fancy stars, washed-up pitchers moping in the bullpen, the utility dude on the bench playing out his option. We even love the manager with his tantrums and his excuses, and the third base coach who windmills the lead reader home, the crackerjack man, the organ player, the moron who keeps shouting, "Hey, big fat slob," when the cleanup guy from the other team, and you know which team that is, strides to the plate. He stretches his arms. He is a pumped-up dude. He is stoked on steroids. He cannot swallow and chew gum. Evil slugger for the other team. He is wreathed in malevolent pride, ugly from his nostrils to his toes. When he swings that bat, he can crush a fastball like bones. We hate that man. We hate that man. We want our bastard to strike that bastard out. Thank you. 2 or 3 poems from Pop and Johnny. This was published in 2009 by Three Rooms Press. Cat George and Peter Koloftes. It's done very well. I'm very excited about it. Page 50 is one that I like. Every year I go to perform at the Woody Guthrie Festival in Okemah, Oklahoma. It's hometown of Woody Guthrie, and we started a poetry component to this folk festival about 6 years ago. I took a year off this year, but I'm going back next year. But every time I got to go through Dallas-Fort Worth Airport. And after the first time they're stuck in Dallas-Fort Worth Airport, I wrote this poem about that experience. Right square in the middle of it. 2:45, Terminal D, Dallas-Fort Worth Airport, McDonald's. I got a half an hour to kill. My plane's taking off for Oklahoma City in a half an hour. Half an hour to kill. I should be thinking about this thing I'll be doing in Oklahoma. Instead, I've sat myself down right square in the middle of things, and I'm thinking about a kid in a t-shirt whomping space rats on a video machine in the terminal with his dad, who's wearing a pink Ralph Lauren golf shirt and smiling with his perfectly blonde Texas teeth, his perfectly blonde Texas hair. Well, the boy looks just like the dad, and the dad looks just like the boy, and just now the boy has whomped himself a space rat good. Yee-haw, shouts the boy. Yee-haw! He has whomped a space rat. My boy must have learned how to shout "Yee-haw" like that from his dad. So I purse my New York lips and I shape my New York mouth. Yee-haw, yee-haw. It just doesn't come out right. Well, now it's Dad's turn at the video game. It's only a matter of seconds before he's shouting "Yee-haw! Yee-haw!" He has whomped himself a space rat too. There are airports in every city, there are McDonald's in every town, but sure as shooting, there's only one place in this world where a boy and a man can yell, "Yee-haw!" exactly like that, and here I've gone and sat myself down right square in the middle of it. Thank you. I do a lot of fictional art writing, but this is a true story about my childhood and not wanting to go to a dance and dance with girls. My first dance, and I haven't changed much really. My first dance. I walked through a room full of girls like they were cotton candy. Like I was a black ant caught in the folds of a pink carnation. Remembering what my mother told me, she said, "You're supposed to enjoy yourself, George, and behave." But I did not want to behave. I wanted to play hockey like the other boys, but I couldn't play hockey. I had to walk up to this grown man and shake his hand. It was an enormous hand. He had fingers like hot sausages. It was hairy and suspicious and way too wise. In fact, his hand was sweating more than mine. Man, that hand was big as a giant clam, the one which is always catching Lloyd Bridges by the foot on Sea Hunt. And it wouldn't let him go, and there was old Lloyd wreathed in desperate bubbles and clawing away at his face mask, and all that water and the break for commercial just couldn't come fast enough for me. But eventually I got away from the man with the hand. Though the girls were still there, and they had terrible smiles, and they had ribbons stuck in their hair, and I tried to loosen my tie, but no luck. I couldn't breathe, and one of the fat girls pinned me in the hallway and succeeded in kissing me. And when she was done with that, I went into the kitchen, and I drank a lot of punch from a paper cup and looked out through the kitchen window to where the sun was still shining. There was a dog standing out there with his tongue hanging out, and he was at the crazy end of a tethered rope. He was just trying to get away from everything he knew in that yard, which is surrounded by a tall fence and all that grass. When I say grass, I mean that yard was covered with something very much like grass, but it wasn't really grass at all. In fact, the entire yard had been worn down to nothing but a thin layer of wafer nothingness, just a lot of hard earth and a doghouse stuck in the middle of it, and plenty of dust everywhere. Dust kicked up by the scrabbling, four-legged madness of a dog who was trying to do nothing more complicated than just get away. Two more from Pop and Johnny. Just to let you know that I like kissing girls now. Then I kissed her because, this poem got me kicked out of a bookstore in Lake Ronkonkoma. Or at least they had to turn off the public address system because, the public address system was on. Some lady in the children's department complained, "What is he talking about kissing? I've got little kids." So then I kissed her because it was hot and her lips were pretty and her mouth opened wide like a mustard jar and her tongue stuck in my mouth like feathers in a honey jar. And her hands and her fingertips too, palms like flower merchants. I kissed her hands. Smack, smack, smack. What a perfect gal she was. Bottomless as an oil well, olive-toned, no pit at the center of her stomach, and she was sweet as corn bread. She was easy as a kitten on a cross. She was not a big-bottomed gal at all. No, she fell on me like a paratrooper with no chute on, like a six-gun bandito in the blazing sun, like hail falls into willow trees, like a plague of frogs on Egyptians, like bruises the size of pigeon eggs, like a pirate at his legless treasure chest, and her sex was like a corkscrew, and her size like a coy little blind little biting thing. And I kissed her like a farmer at his plow, like a shepherd at his flock. I kissed her like a capitalist opening a bottle of champagne in a formerly communist country. I kissed her like a low-interest mortgage lender just trying to get you to take his money. I wrote that before the meltdown. Sometimes, you don't realize it when you're a poet that you have have this kind of like prescience, you know, this pre-sight about things sometimes. One more from this book, and then a couple from Burn My Heart in Wet Sand. This is called It is Thanksgiving, Where Are the Indians? It's Thanksgiving, I ought to thank someone. But where are the Indians? I put my coat on, I walk out into the frost, I put my feet to the ground like an Indian, I step out into the cold as if I have deerskin moccasins on. I walk down to a place in the woods with a stream in it that you and I dammed up like a couple of beaver one year for fun. Listen. That's the sound of nobody getting into their cars. Listen. It's the sound of nobody hurting anyone. Listen. That's the sound of people who are sleeping in their beds, of people who for one moment are not busy trying to own the land. It is the sound of women who are patient with their men, and men who are patient with their women right back. And horses that do not bridle, and men who buy each other beer, and women who love each other gracefully, and parents who die knowing that their children love them. It is the sound of a child who will discover love as if it is the very first love, and the voice of God in her ear as if it is the only God. It is the sound of a beaver dam holding the water back. It is Thanksgiving, and morning is quiet as an Indian trail. I would like to thank the silent people who sharpened their tools and did their work and saw their fortunes rise and fall and their paychecks come and go and their kids come and go too. And they passed it all on without complaining. People who are wise, who are foolish, people who are innocent in their hearts and live to tell it, and people who are loud and with big fists, but they use their big voices to speak truth, and their fists to reach out against power gone wrong. I would like to thank all the people who knew when it was time to place their hands at their sides and let a cheap shot slide. I'd like to thank the leaves for falling so quietly from the trees. It's Thanksgiving. I look out past the bare trees, out over the suburban rooftops, and further than that, out to the city. So many people. You are out there with them somewhere, like Indians under their wet blanket of earth, but I don't know where. I'd like to thank you too. Some of you will say that I'm growing a mustache, Fu Manchu mustache. I don't know how long it's going to last, but I was shaved it so carefully, and now this is not like a video recording, so I didn't need to. I wasted all that time in front of a mirror.
It looks good. We'll tell them.
All right, so this is 2005, Burn My Heart in Wet Sand. It's an English book, and it's been through a couple of printings, but one of the funny things in this book is a Thanksgiving poem I wrote then. I was making up stuff about what Thanksgiving was about for an English audience, seeing what I could pull over, on this English audience. But it turns out, I guess they watch American TV or something, because they knew that I was making stuff up. Okay, let's make sure I can find this. Earth is horizon, heaven is height. And hopefully this has a kind of a gospel feel to it, like a gospel preacher's feel to it. To understand this poem, you have to be of a certain age. You have to be of a certain age where they used to, at Thanksgiving time, you would clip out these figures of pilgrim pilgrims and turkeys and things like that out of a newspaper or out of a magazine. They had little things that you would fold so they'd stand up and you could put them up. Yeah, sure. So that's in there. Earth is horizon. Heaven is height. I am a cut-out pilgrim boy. You are a cut-out pilgrim girl. I am holding a cardboard blunderbuss and wearing a stovepipe hat, and there's a shiny buckle on it. You are wearing a white apron and have a white bonnet, and one loose string is falling from it. I've been out hunting all day. You've been inside cooking all day. The world is orange and brown and black and white. Our world has two dimensions. Earth is horizon. Heaven is height. My eyes are without distance. Your eyes are without depth. I am free of doubt. You are beaming with unexamined gratitude. Thank you, Mother. Thank you, Father. Thank you, husband. Thank you, wife. Thank you, children. Thank you, relatives. Thank you, Indians. Thank you, England. Thank you, Powhatan and John Winthrop. Thank you, Pocahontas and Anna Hutchinson. Thank you, beasts of burden. Thank you, chickens. Thank you, eggs. Thank you, boulders. Thank you, tree stumps. Thank you, mud, roots, soil, clod, spade, Beckett's shovel, adze, axe handle, sledge, head. Thank you, wooden spoon, clay pitcher, glass bowl, shingled roof. Thank you, iron-shoed hooves and metal sled runners. Thank you, curtains. Thank you, curtain rods. Thank you, houseplants. Thank you, pets. Thank you, house builders, road builders, automobile builders. Thank you, coal diggers. Thank you, crop dusters. Thank you, tomato pickers and lettuce loaders. Thank you, truck drivers, shelf stockers, checkout register ringers. Thank you, furniture makers. Thank you, computer programmers. Thank you, Bank of America. Thank you, our Father who art in Washington. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Buddha. Thank you, Herman Hesse. Thank you, John Paul Sartre, Flann O'Brien. Thank you, Paul Bunyan, John Chapman, Luther Burbank, Davy Crockett. Thank you, God of Eden. Thank you, God of the lion lying down with the lamb. Thank you, God of vengeance and forgiveness. Thank you, God of mutual seduction and pregnant wishes. Thank you, God of penetrative and non-penetrative sex. Thank you, Warner Brothers. Thank you, Disney. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, horn of plenty, shelled autumnal vulva of the earth goddess. Like I said, they saw right through that poem. I have time for two more poems from this and one poem from Sleeping Beauty. This is kind of a cinematic poem called A Matter of Protection. It's about the migration of a handgun from World War II. A Matter of Protection. There was a little song sung by a mermaid who swam past a shore at the moment that an artist from the south of France was lying there. It's a strange song. It was full of stars. It had plenty of love in it. And he had plenty of love in his heart. Her mouth was a small coconut. Her song was sour milk. And he heard that song. And he moved from the south of France to Paris to be nearer to the epicenter of where it was all happening. Hey, it was 1922. And he kept his paintings in a hallway beside the kitchen in the apartment building which he was living in. He kept his drawings in a drawer in a pantry. And next to the drawings there was an opal case, and inside the case was a revolver. And the artist kept it hidden there, and he kept it very clean, and he kept it very secretly, because he wasn't an anarchist or anything. It was only a matter of protection. And the concierge who lived down the hall quite naturally did not approve of such things. And besides, there was a well-oiled thug who lived upstairs who sang opera, and he sang it well. And of course, there were cockroaches, and there was mosquitoes and unusual women, but also dark men who kept coming and going any time of night or day. And one of them might have wished to steal a revolver like that. All day long he cleaned that revolver. You know, was his only lover. And when he wasn't painting all night long or drawing, which is after all what artists from the south of France living in Paris do, he was sleeping, and when he was sleeping, quite frequently he was dreaming. And when he dreamed, he saw that mermaid. Oh, she was lacquered like stars. Time went on, and he saw that mermaid everywhere, asleep or awake. He saw her in white fingertips and the hair of market girls. He saw her in fat thumbs and the ears of statues. Her eyes were black pearls. Her lips were sea cucumber. The artist from the south of France wanted that mermaid so bad. One day he took the revolver out of its case and he boarded a train in the Gare de Lyon. He carried it to Rome, and when he got there, he shot up some Roman ruins, and well, that scattered some cats, and the revolver was confiscated by the fascists. And we all know what happened next. The fascists lost the war. An American general got a hold of that revolver, and he brought it back to Washington. He gave that revolver to Eleanor Roosevelt. And Eleanor Roosevelt gave that revolver to a woman who she loved passionately and secretly and well. And a number of years after that, the woman who Eleanor Roosevelt loved passionately and secretly and well gave that revolver to a woman on Hester Street in New York City, who she scarcely knew, but who, I am told, resembled a mermaid. And that woman, I am told, swims through the streets of New York City to this day, singing oceans and seas, and she sings a surrealist song. Because even in New York City, dreams are populated like heaven with snails and mermaids and stars and things. And a person with love in their heart sometimes needs a revolver. It's only a matter of protection. Thank you for your patience with this. I'll read you the title poem from Sleeping Beauty's Revenge, the expurgated version. Sleeping Beauty's Revenge. Write about what you know, he tells me. Well, I know this. He's a big hairy ape, and I don't like to complain, but this reality stuff, this idea of beauty, I mean, I lack his appreciation for that old cliche, and I prefer the imaginary kind, which is to say, what I write about every day is Crystal, a.k.a. my imaginary lover. She's a perfect lady. She's the one with the black tooth smile, rose up out of nowhere, out of the ashes, and gave it all back to me, as good as was ever given. My sweet Crystal, sweet as rock candy, feminized, socialized, and inflammatory as an unforgiving, pill-popping woman dressed in white, a wedding cake kind of a girl with shiny black thorns growing up all around her. Girl shacked up, girl in make-believe Chelsea, girl sharing an apartment with make-believe Sid Vicious or some fragile millionaire she is going to screw like a pig. Go get him, baby, go chain him up, get your Sleeping Beauty revenge. And oh, she gives it to him. Oh, yes, she does. And he loves it. The complete bum rush, the complete kicks, and oh, Crystal dear, dirty as a $1 bill, passed through too many hands, the last angel in the last seat of the last subway car, and pretty too damn pretty for a washed-up old junkie, and oddly sweet to the tongue, not the good kind of sweet, not the sugar you want running around in your precious blood, or stuck into the flesh of your heart. This praise poem is for my Crystal, who will burn your blood, tear your ribs apart, because she's eye candy, all right. She's honest Injun, and to be truthful, I admit I've known a few women like her and wrote poems about them, regrettably. Wrote poems about them plenty, but not now. Now I write about Crystal. Because imagination is sweet and always right around the corner. Because reality is for crybabies. And just because you experience something doesn't make it true. It's a far better thing to wrestle reality down than let it screw up your writing, which is to say why I say this. You put your foot down on reality's neck, baby. You make it holler. You don't let it go. For once in your life, you be the one getting Sleeping Beauty's revenge. Let reality be the one doing the squealing for a change. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, George, for sharing so much with the poetry community. You really inspire me every day. So I have a Thanksgiving poem. It's called Thanksgiving Hymn, and the hymn is H-I-M. Waiting at the light, he looks at me and says, "I'm not him." I snap back in existential, "I didn't think you were." Outside Bubby's on Hudson, without a mean street in sight, I am dissed by a movie director. Thanksgiving standoff, floats of expectations, corner Tribeca. I'm waiting here, and he's looking at me, looking in me. I'm just trying to digest the bloat. I don't need to block his shot, dim his grand illusion. In the holiday emptiness of Greenwich Street, I search for a rogue taxi driver to ferry me away from him. The next is somehow based on Freedom by Jonathan Franzen and his essay about David Wallace Foster in the New York Magazine, The Why of Freedom. When you called the campus police, told them to arrest the sore throat that was killing you, I knew you were off your meds. They had a list of your complaints, including the one about Martian rape. The ice froze you to the mountain. I had to take you home. You saw ghosts in the car, trained it back to the city, shoplifted at Sephora, eyelined your face with desperation. I bring meds and money to your corner. You bitch slap the bills into the wind, throw the pills down the sewer. I am going bird watching in South America, forget that I ever gave you light, leap off a cliff, become the fog. St. Rose in the bath. Black nipples, products of Spanish invasion, skim the surface. She makes me sit on the tub's chipped edge, reads to me from an ancient book about girl saints, long dead with unpronounceable names, who ripped out their tongues to save their villages, stitched up their vaginas to ward off floods, carried bees in their holy hands to stave off pestilence. She makes me dry her off with a towel. Faster, faster, mommy's cold. My little hands dry off the canvas I came from. When I whine, she mentions Susie, one of the last polio victims who lives on our block, whose mommy ran off. Mention polio and my legs twinge. Mention mommy leaving and I look for needle and thread to sew up my misery. And this is my newest, Rush Hour on a Thursday in Penn Station. When I hear Mom in the middle of Penn Station, I know the mom is me. My briefcase daughter holds her dry cleaning wrapped in blue plastic like a blue delphinium bridal bouquet as she navigates the rush. She is going downtown, home to her boyfriend and cats. I am schlepping uptown to a poetry workshop, suburbia tattooed on my supermarket shopping bag, poetry portmanteau. She picks me out of the herd. Her mom, a question mark. Will you play with me? Will you read me a story? Will you leave me alone? My impulse is to run into Kmart, buy a coloring book, crayons, make a space on the floor, and color with my daughter, insist the city walk around us. She does not attempt to break through the roundup. Instead, she waves, motions she'll cool, blows a kiss that a bum steals and swallows. Thank you.
My name is Doreen Spungin, Dee Dee Spungin, and my first poem is called I Land on an Island. These poets with their words aglow, and I shipwrecked on a wordless island, oars splintered, raft but a dream. A wreck sits half submerged in my lagoon. Water so clear I can peer into myself, reach out to pull me out before I drown. Drown in emptiness? Drown in spaces so deep the echo of nothingness deafens? I feel tears cascading down my cheeks burning, their fire reminding me how barren the lovely island. Flowers filling air with scent so heavy it knocks me to my knees. I pray for words, for what those others have. What have they got that I don't? 90-pound weakling sand in my face. Practice, practice. Try something new. What is new about emptiness, about impotence, brain, heart, mind limping along the shore? I build a fire. Will someone see it? Will it save me from what wild beast owns this place? Tomorrow, I'll try to drown myself. That will make for a fine poem. This is called When Failure, and the epigraph is, when failure escapes through a sieve, there is always the cotton ball. Beauregard Montresat. I like the practicality of umbrellas, the pomposity of fortune-tellers, the raving lunatic declaring the end. I like the wonderment in a raindrop, the cause and effect of a fallen leaf, the uselessness of one old shoe. Hearts pour into open air. I watch a rain of thieves puddle on glinting sidewalks. At night, the moon throws me a curve. I like standing still, a loving target smitten by the silver orb. And when I drop the ball, rise too soon from gentle puddles, I wonder as I watch my failures pour through the sieve of human error. They fall to rich ground, wait for saving rain, become buds of second chances. Thank you. Excuses, or why retirement tastes so sweet. Excuses. She throws the papers up in the air, fluttering bits of confetti outweigh their importance. Several children squeal in delight, the rest take cover under their desks. A 1950s shelter drill gone amok. This teacher, over ready to retire, recoils from the real world. The corner drugstore measures your blood pressure, sells you safety in a bottle. The boot salesman causes floods. All that preparation, red marks on a page, there is a reason for the invention of erasers. In the closet at school, the teacher finds a crumpled note. She thinks it's another excuse and begins to toss it in the air along with the others. Something stops her hand. She opens the crude ball, straightens it out to its flat self, and reads, "I am being held hostage in a musty old textbook. You have 3 days to find me, else I shall be sacrificed to the gods of boredom. Please find me before it is too late. P.S. I'm wearing a carrot in my ear and will not hear you call my name. This is no joke." Now she has something real to live for, and she tenders her resignation and hires Bugs Bunny to help in the search. Thank you. Last one. This, then, is the war over. Far away, celebrations are whispered. No one dares wake the giant, finally asleep. White flags carried by lords leaping after they have looked one last time at battlefields muddied with blood. Someone creeps up with the mother mop, sops up the life left behind in the name of death and victory, and someone's right to someone else's rights. It's all familiar and brutal. This night of moonless sleep, someone has declared peace. Struck dumb, the world doesn't believe and continues manufacturing uniforms. The lines are just as long in the munitions factories. The hate factories wish desperately to close, but the foreman's radio is broken. Who will take the news to him? Please, wear a bulletproof vest as you travel. White flags are so fragile. Thank you.
Well, I put together two new ones. Last night. This first one, I don't know if you've ever met someone who is very, very excited about their trips to France and French culture and French. I've been to France. It's a lovely country. But this is dedicated to the Francophile. You speak to me often of the fabulousness of French culture, the wine, the cheese, the beef bourguignon, and I ask you, what of Estonia? Tallinn with its breathtaking medieval architecture, the sumptuous rye bread, the yogurt soups, the pork and potatoes. It all sounds so magnificent to me. Oh, yes, I know. the Champs-Élysées, and further south the inviting beaches. They beckon you. But what of the Ozarks, the badgers and beavers, the big noisy woodpeckers? Have you no love for Arkansas? How about a good barbecue, small talk with the locals, or perhaps square dancing? I like wine, yes. I'm not one of those beer snobs who can't stomach the subject of wine. The Spaniards make fine, full-blooded reds, and don't neglect the remarkable vineyards of Washington and Oregon, or those steely whites from the German Southwest. Your summer vacation to France was one to remember, I am sure of that. But I ask you, would you like to see 350 pictures of my recent trip to Florida? I will show you them one by one, and watch as your eyes begin to weep the bitter tears of entrapment. Come, let's begin with Mickey Mouse. And the other theme I have here is, back in the day before the advent of the internet, there was the chain letter, and you would receive chain letters. Well, I think the internet may have made the chain letter obsolete, because now you can do the exact same thing on Facebook. So people copy and paste these meaningful messages. And I have an example of one, and then my response to it. This I called, "Who Creates These Hallmark Fortune Cookies?" And here's an example of one. I need prayers so bad right now. Hope someone cares. If you are my friend, click the like button and then repost. If I don't see your name, I'll understand. May I ask my Facebook family, wherever you may be, to kindly copy, paste, and share this status for 1 hour to give a prayer of support to all who have family problems, struggles, and worries, and just need to know that someone cares. Do it for all of us, for no one is immune. I hope to see this on the walls of all my friends, just for moral support. I know someone will. I did it for a friend, and you can too. Share some faith and love for those in need. Life works in strange ways. So my version of this message is, my true friends will pass this message on to all their true friends. I am in dire need of love. The kind of love you can give me in your status update. The world, with the mess it's in, needs you now more than ever to believe in the power of the status update. You should join our cause. Together we can change the world, one message at a time. There are puppies dying everywhere. How can we smile in a world filled with dead puppies? All it takes is one brave soul to say no to the dead puppies, to the slave labor in foreign lands, and to the misery and sorrow in our homes. Take a stand on Facebook today, now. If you don't, we understand, but know that we are watching you destroy the world with your cold heart. You who categorically ignore our emotional manipulation and promote your agenda of selfish hate. We understand, sure we do. We understand why you mock us with jaded accusations because we cannot spell words correctly. But this is no excuse for not taking action. The world, with the mess it's in, has dire need of you despite your contempt. We need to make this thing viral. We need to make this thing real.
Yes, I'm Charles Peter Watson, and they give me West Babylon, not... although I do have bigger lands in mind. First one, a pessimist's Christmas care package. I never cared to jingle bell rock around the Christmas tree, nor ever follow yonder star to a nativity. Why care to jingle all the way up or down Santa Claus Lane, when peace on earth, goodwill towards men, is just a reindeer game? I never cared to hear what you heard when herald angels sing, nor ever look to sky above for sleigh or star for king. Why care to know whose child this is of a round young virgin birth, when what it costs, not what it's for, discerns the season's worth? I never cared to see 3 ships or kings of Orient are, nor ever wassail, unless it's an open bar. Why care to recall red-nosed reindeer, or a visit from St. Nick, when jolly old St. Nicholas can't be that lightning quick? I never cared to rumpa-bum-bum on Winter Wonderland, nor ever ring those Christmas bells from first Noel to end. Why care to tell it on the mountain what's sung there in reply, when saying Happy Holidays can be spit in one's eye? I never cared to hanging with care a stocking or a wreath, nor ever hang some mistletoe for kisses underneath. Why care to stand O Tannenbaum for all the O Holy Night, when months from now you're billed because you made the season bright? Truth be told, I wrote this letter. Headless in Sleepy Hollow. Dear Mr. Irving, I write to you from the depths of the earth and from the bottom of my heart to say that you do me a grave disservice. I am unable to neither read your novels nor speak to you regarding my character for reasons fairly obvious to you. Regarding your story based in my hometown, you had me referred in some lore told by Mr. Van Brunt in earshot of Mr. Crane in an effort to deflect all affections from Miss Van Tassel he might have had prior to his flight. Though your allowances for artistic license keeps the story burgeoning throughout time, the one factor most detrimental to my image applied sometime in the years after the legend's release is the presumption that I carried a lit jack-o'-lantern or donned one as a prosthetic scare tactic. It should come to a man of great literary knowledge and common rational discernment that such a thing like that, and the access to a horse, would do me no good. Not the same no good for which I am portrayed as being up to. The Highwayman ensemble sans the hat was sufficient in the effort to provide some metaphor of omen. The application of an orange headpiece to a black uniform is off-putting in both the dramatic and fashion senses, despite the eeriness emoted in the carved face provided to complete the physical form. The contradiction of wearing the appendage in relation to the name given to me is another error, but a mere trifle compared to the ridiculous notion of an illuminated vegetable. I hope my complaint hasn't brought you any dismay. I feel my portrayal in your story should not require any additions to it that are presented to embellish an already classic tale. Thank you for your work and for making me an established figure in American and worldwide fictional literature. Sincerely, Headless and Sleepy Hollow. P.S. I will be forwarding a complaint to Tim Burton regarding his misinterpretation that Hessians use mixed martial arts. Let's see if I can tell this one again without messing up. Who is there? A knock upon an old oak door, and one upon the window pane. A third is struck, and struck me more, though time is sure to wane. A cry within, a whistling wind, a voice within a moment's pause. I know these sounds, they chill my mind. I know these sounds I did not cause. A glimpse so brief beyond the hall, a sight uncertain floating free. As such, the lost return a call that's so unmannerly. A shape bereft of mortal form, a fleeting image undefined. The sun today had kept me warm. The moon tonight won't be so kind. A cold draught neath the old oak door, or through the unsealed window pane. A life now lost may make for sure. In death there more again. The knock to knock that beckons much. Some presence felt and calling heard, but ne'er did I feel fear as such, till the silence after the third. This last one. Many of you know this woman, and she was the inspiration for this poem. Not often you write a poem about a mass murderer of antiquity. But it's called Blood Meal for the Amaranth. Evening folds in her fading, seedy face, a subdued weed set in her brickwork planter left from her device, starving in penance for the pretty maids lost for immortal gain. Thorns through to perennial nectar, tapped from these seeds of innocence lured to this soul flower's garden. The amaranth made red her regal flesh off the sweet young blooms from the land that now bears their remains, sown into that good earth from unearthly fate. How wilted were you to merit the meal at cost greater to they who senesced from fatal wilt spawned by your hunger? What great gardens of lost blooms made in lost landscapes of your head, which escaped pruning because of rank, while your tenders joined the pretty maids, for whom in value you now cost. Immortal gain breached each growing season, your regal flesh to dirt dies more.